update since the firestorm that we experienced over the weekend. And that is the fact that both sides, both the WNBPA and the league, have agreed to essentially telling the players to not sign a new deal until this new CBA is finished, which I feel like that's a given. Of course, you shouldn't sign a deal under the old CBA with the Chicago Sky or the Fever get much higher ratings than the Connecticut Sun, or they get higher attendance than this. The Golden State Valkyries have higher attendance than the Las Vegas Aces. Like, you need to be able to report.
This is not a rumor, an opinion, or an attack. It's a collapse happening in real time. Day one, Unrivaled launches with promises of a revolution. Media calls it the future, and players frame it as leverage. Then the numbers arrive. 65% of the audience vanishes, and panic sets in quietly. Executives call it opening day noise, say it needs time, insist viewers will return. Then day two hits, and everything falls apart. This isn't another dip or something that can be explained away. 95% of the audience is gone. In less than 48 hours, the viewership doesn't decline. It disappears. Empty seats, lifeless broadcasts, no buzz, no momentum. This wasn't a slump. It was exposure. For the first time, Caitlin Clark isn't on the screen, and without her, no one is watching. Not Angel Reese, not Paige Buchers, not Aya Wilson. Not elite talent, not competitive balance, not history, nothing. And that's when the tone shifts, because suddenly the same players who were talking about strikes and demanding 30% of gross revenue are staring at a reality they can't ignore.
Opening slate on January 5th, which kicked off on a Monday afternoon game, averaged 175,000 viewers in 2 games. That aired both on TNT and True TV. The 2 True TV exclusive games on January 5th averaged 32,000 viewers. That's very low. Games on January 9th averaged 139,000 viewers across TNT and True TV. The 4 games that aired January 10th and January 11th averaged 71,000 viewers on True TV. All Unrivaled games also air on HBO Max, which is not
much
measured.
But it says here, Unrivaled is bigger than a year ago. It created 2 more teams, signed 54 players. The problem is that no developmental player has played yet. They have all these developmental players signed. None of them have played yet. It expanded its Miami campus too, adding an additional court and weight room to the facility. That is unpopular opinion. That's fucking irrelevant to
the same players who once called the old contracts disrespectful are now begging. Not on Twitter, not on camera, but behind closed doors. Can we play under the old CBA? Can we delay this? Can we just keep the season alive? This isn't confidence. It's fear. Unrivaled was supposed to be the backup plan, the leverage move, the threat. Instead, it exposed a hard truth. Without Caitlin Clark involved, the audience vanishes, and that changes everything.
Into this league, under the assumption that this league is going to make them money. Like, the investors aren't burning money. People are like, they're investing. Big word is investing. They don't want the league to burn money. TNT, I'd say, are sitting there hearing this shit being like, why did we spend 30 million on a league when the players don't even want to be competitive with each other? Well, let's take a react to this article from the New York Post. So, this is an article about Unrivaled's success may come down to second season view.
Let's rewind for a moment. WNBA players entered negotiations believing they held real power, that the league was finally profitable, that the audience was loyal, and that stars were interchangeable. They were wrong. The growth wasn't broad. It was concentrated. One player, one name, one draw. Caitlin Clark. The league knew it, sponsors knew it, and networks knew it. That's why her deal skyrocketed, while everyone else stalled. Now the contrast is unavoidable. While Unrivaled loses 95% of its audience by day 2, Caitlin Clark's merchandise sells out, her highlights dominate timelines, and her name alone moves numbers. One player creates the value. An entire ecosystem feeds off it. And now that ecosystem is cracking, because leverage only works if the alternative actually works. Unrivaled doesn't, drawing just 107,000 viewers on opening night, down from 313,000 last year.
wouldn't be watching ratings like this. They wouldn't be pocket watching. They wouldn't be like, oh, how does Unrivaled make money? How do they do this? How do they do this? People wouldn't be this tapped in, this lasered in, if it wasn't such a big thing at the negotiating table. Of course, people are going to start comparing it because it's like the founders of this league tried to make it seem like it is so much better than the WNBA. And I feel like that's kind of disrespectful. Yes, they did a lot of things right. They did a lot of incredible things, but we wouldn't be looking into Unrivaled this hard and be like, well, where'd you get your money? Well, how much is the TV deal? How many people are tuning in? If they wouldn't have built it up and been like, well, the WNBA sucks and everybody there sucks, which I am on their side in a sense that I do think with the WNBA, so much could be better. But anybody who was here thinking that Unrivaled is just going to be this massive thing and it's going to put the WNBA under, like, I've been saying that from the beginning. And I've also said from the beginning, Unrivaled doesn't succeed if both leagues are successful, and especially if the WNBA is.
That's not a decline. It's a rejection. TNT spent millions promoting this. Media promised a movement, and players promised unity. But the audience responded with a clear no. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud. This isn't about sexism, marketing, or respect. It's about supply and demand. And the demand is gone. WNBA players turned down 50% of net revenue and pushed for 30% of gross, which means before expenses. A deal that would have cost the league hundreds of millions. The league said no. Players threatened to strike, and Unrivaled was supposed to be the safety net. Now that net is on fire, and suddenly everything is being reconsidered. Because reality hits differently when rent is due. Beliefs don't pay bills. Narratives don't fill arenas. Hashtags don't save leagues. Ratings do. And the ratings just scream the truth. The WNBA survived for decades through NBA subsidies, patience, hope, and long-term vision. But patience has limits. When alternative leagues fail this badly, owners notice, investors notice, networks notice, and the question shifts. It's no longer how do we grow this league. It becomes why are we funding this at all?
In, this lasered in, if it wasn't such a big thing at the negotiating table. Of course, people are going to start comparing it because it's like the founders of this league tried to make it seem like it is so much better than the WNBA. And I feel like that's kind of disrespectful. Yes, they did a lot of things right. They did a lot of incredible things, but we wouldn't be looking into Unrivaled this hard and be like, well, where'd you get your money? Well, how much is the TV deal? How many people are tuning in? If they wouldn't have built it up and been like, well, the WNBA sucks and everybody there sucks, which I am on their side in a sense that I do think with the WNBA, so much could be better. But anybody who was here thinking that Unrivaled is just going to be this massive thing and it's going to put the WNBA under, like, I've been saying that from the beginning. And I've also said from the beginning, Unrivaled doesn't succeed if both leagues are successful, and especially if the WNBA is successful. All Breanna Stewart and Nafisa have been saying from the beginning is they want to make sure that the ladies get paid more and they can stay on American soil. You know how they can do that? By playing in the WNBA. And if they do get these salaries that are $500,000 average with over $1 million max, they're going to be making more than they make at Unrivaled. They're going to be playing 5v5 courts. They're going to be playing in much bigger arenas. So they did their job. So in that sense, if that was truly their goal, they did their job. They did their job. They used, I guess, possibly some leverage from Unrivaled at the negotiating table. And they did their job and they got the ladies paid more. And now you don't necessarily need Unrivaled anymore. So I'm very interested to see what the future.
And that's what makes this terrifying. Because the moment owners stop believing, it's over. That's why the panic is real and why players are begging now. Because the bluff failed. They thought Caitlin Clark's popularity meant the entire league would rise. It didn't. She rose, and everyone else rode along. Now the ride is over. Paige Buchers is paid hundreds of thousands to draw college-level numbers. Angel Reese trends online, but doesn't convert to viewers. Aya Wilson is elite, but elite doesn't equal draw. This isn't disrespect, it's math. Caitlin Clark is irreplaceable, and that's the lesson Unrivaled just taught everyone. Now the negotiations flip. The league doesn't need to rush because the players lost leverage. The threat is gone. Strike if you want. The audience already left. And here's the darkest part. If the 2026 season happens under the old CBA, watch how fast solidarity disappears. Individual deals, side contracts, quiet exits. When survival is on the line, Ideology collapses. The same voices screaming about equity will fight for crumbs, because crumbs are better than nothing. And right now, nothing is winning. This isn't hate. This is exposure.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, why would I watch? Why would I watch? Like, for lack of a better way, training camp for players that why would we be we're essentially, they're pitching it as we're watching basically player individual workouts. Like, if they're not talking about it as a competitive league, and I don't like as well on social media, everyone's like, oh, it's so great, there's none of the bullshit with the WNBA. Like, you can look, all the players are getting along. Why do we want the players to be getting along? Like, why do we want all these players to be friends with each other? Like, I'm sorry, what are we doing? Like, they play against each other one night in like a heated matchup, and the next night they're sitting together, smiling together courtside, and I'm like, no, you don't want to see that. You don't. It's fair enough that the players are all friends with each other, but a culture of zero competitiveness. And by the way, you've lost Skylar Diggins, you've lost Angel Reese, you've lost.
The market spoke, the numbers answered, and the illusion died. Women's basketball didn't explode. One star did, and without her, the entire structure shakes. Day 1, 65% gone. Day 2, 95% dead. That isn't a warning. It's an ending. And now they want to rewind time, but markets don't rewind.